Today we're talking about men. Amen. Fathers, brothers, co-workers, boyfriends, husbands, friends. The random guy who somehow turns every conversation back to himself. Or that weird guy hitting on you in the middle of the street. And before anyone gets defensive, this is not a men-hating episode. I love men. I have a deep-seated respect for men. I have wonderful men in my life. Some of my favorite people are men. But I do think that men are one of the most fascinating species on earth. Because somehow they're capable of building skyscrapers and life-changing technology, but if you ask them what's wrong, they say nothing. I have spent years trying to understand them. Why do they show love differently? Why do they communicate differently, if they communicate at all? Why do they insist on carrying 17 grocery bags on one trip? Why do they refuse to use a map, or now today on the phone of Mappy thing, whatever that thing, MapQuest? No, that's what it's called. Google Maps. Why do they refuse to do that? Why do they suddenly become medical experts after watching one YouTube video? And perhaps the biggest question of all, what's the difference between a man and a boy? Because age does not always answer that question. So today we are breaking down men. The good, the confusing, the lovable, and the absolutely ridiculous. This is your guide, our guide to men. Let's hope we figure it out. Hey everybody, welcome back to Still Can't Cook. Don't forget to rate us 5 stars and follow us on YouTube. Today's episode is for anyone who's ever looked at a man and thought, what exactly is going on? Because despite all of our differences, men play a huge role in all of our lives. They're our fathers, our father figures, our brothers, our boyfriends, our husbands, our co-workers, our friends, our bosses. They are everywhere you look. They're everywhere. They're taking over. Sometimes they're our biggest supporters. Sometimes, most of the time, the entire source of our group chat discussions. And understanding men honestly makes life a whole lot easier. So today we're talking about why men operate differently, the men who shape us throughout life, the difference between boys and grown men, and the lessons I have learned from the men I loved. Once you stop expecting men to think exactly like women, things start to make a lot more sense. One thing that I've learned about men is that they often show love through action before words. Women tend to process feelings, I know I do, through talking. Lots and lots of talking. Men often process their feelings by doing. I mean, as I've said in my other podcast, and you should go back and watch if you haven't, I am not a doctor, so I'm not clinically saying that this is all true. This is my opinion, and I believe I'm right. So your dad may not tell you he's proud of you every single day, but he will spend 6 hours helping you move or pay for somebody to do it for you. Your brother may roast you relentlessly, but the second someone else bothers you, he's your bodyguard. Your best guy friends might not ask you how you're feeling emotionally, but they will drive across town at midnight if your tire explodes. Speaking of cars, when I was a kid, I have 2 older brothers, and growing up, my brothers always had nice cars, and they drove cool, like, I don't know what they were back in the day. They had like Monte Carlos, you know, I'm 55, so it was in the 70s. But they always had really kind of cool cars. They would buy them, they renovated them themselves, they paint them. It's probably not called renovating, but whatever they would do the things to the cars. So it became my time to buy a car. And my older brother wanted me to get a sensible car, like a Ford, some kind of blue old man car. And I was literally hysterical. I'm like, there's no possible way I'm driving around in this car. I'm cool. Like, I can't be a cool girl in this car. These things are not going together. And I was literally beside myself. I was at the kitchen table, and Patrick was the oldest, is still the oldest brother. And it was kind of like, Patrick said so. And I'm like, but I don't want this stupid car. And my father's like, Pat's right. He wants it to be something that you don't get hurt in. And basically they all manned up on me. And I was devastated. I was like, I'd rather ride a bicycle for the rest of my life than get in this stupid old man car, which now I think is probably a great, you know, when you look back, it was like a cool blue Ford kind of, I don't know what kind of car it was, but it was I would love to have the car now. But at 18 or 17, however old, 17 when you get your license, I was like, there's no way I'm getting in this car. So one afternoon, I was going through the heartache of them making the offer on the Ford. Philip came to me, this is my other brother, and he was like, take a ride with me. So he took me in the car and he drove me to a police auction, which I don't know if you've ever heard of these things, but this is where cars get impounded or people can't pay for their cars. I don't know exactly what happens, but I know it's hardship. I know it's not a good story. If your car ends up there, something crazy happened. So you go to these police auctions, and then like they're seized in drug deals and stuff. And we come across a Chrysler LeBaron, which my father wanted it to be a metal car. There was like a few things that I had to have to make it safe. And so my brother went through and he was like, this car has all the things that daddy wants you to have. And so my brother got me the Chrysler at the police auction and we came home with the car and everybody was happy. So they tortured me until the last minute. They didn't do there was like big grand gesture, the fact that they were going to change their minds, where my mother would have been coddling me and saying, it's okay, don't worry about it, Kelley, and we're not going to get, she wasn't really involved in the car situation, which is kind of really sexist if you think about it. My two brothers and my dad had all to say about the car. Different time. But I guess my mother really didn't care about the car situation. She did in fact care if I was upset about it. So I don't quite know what the back story is. I should probably ask Philip now how he decided to turn around and bring me to get the car. But it was one of those things like he did. It was very quiet, but he showed how much he loved me by doing something, if that makes sense. Very different from how my sister would have handled it. Roseanne would have been like, we're going to get a car now. It would have been a big hoopla. We would have to have the right outfits. It feels like throwing a pair of jeans and a t-shirt and get in the car. I had no idea where I was going. So men doing things, showing their love by actions, I guess, circling back. It's one of the earliest things I remember that was an actual, tangible thing that happened. That was handled way differently by the men in my house than would have been if it was my mother or my sister. I was lucky enough to have two brothers and a sister, so I got to deal with how men and women behave differently, especially in a family setup. And mom and dad still together. God bless, they both have passed, but they were together till one of them died. But growing up, I had the difference between how my brothers behaved and how my sister behaved when it came to loving and to expressing love or any emotion for that matter. Way different. My brothers were really quiet and they were doers. They showed acts of service when they wanted to show you how much they loved you. But the one thing I did find out young is that men hurt too. And I think that was a surprise for me when I was in my teenage years. Both of my brothers had long-term girlfriends. We grew up in Brooklyn. Philip had a long-term girlfriend, as did Patrick, very young. And when they had problems with their girlfriends, the girlfriends would come. It was like back in the day when you'd come to each other's houses and knock on the door to talk. You didn't really call. I mean, I could call a home phone, but they actually did face-to-face conversations. But I remember my one brother, his girlfriend came so they can communicate about an argument that they had. And he was like stoic outside. He was like, and I remember because it's a small house, so I heard the conversation. But he came inside and like broke down and went upstairs and was crying. And I remember being like, oh my God, she went home not knowing this. You feel too. There's a heart inside of them too. I was like, why didn't you tell her that? But something happens. I don't know the whole story. God, I remember it was about a pair of Skippy sneakers. That's how crazy I am, like an elephant. I remember these things. Skippies were sneakers we wore in Brooklyn growing up, and they were white. And I think my brother bought her sneakers, and she didn't like them. Whatever happened, there was a Skippy sneaker involved. And hopefully we can put a pop-up of what a Skippy looks like. But yeah, I remember watching my brother go upstairs, and he was crying. And I was like, oh my God, like Roseanne or myself would have thrown ourselves on the front stoop and be like, I love you so much. Right? Thank you for coming to my house. Imagine if your boyfriend came knocking at your door, it would be like heart, like, he loves me. The girlfriend comes crying and you go inside and act like you don't care. But anyway, not all men, but my brothers. But I remember realizing like, oh, they have stuff we don't know about. They keep their feelings, my siblings at least, kept their feelings close to the chest. It was like, I'm going to act stoic and like, this doesn't bother me and I'm going to go inside and cry. Eventually they got back together with their girlfriends and then they didn't. And then they all both got married to other people and blah, blah, blah. The story continues. But I remember seeing how different my brother reacted to the girlfriend arriving than my sister or I would have reacted to the boyfriend arriving. I did in fact remember my boyfriend came 7th grade on his bicycle after an argument we had at school, and I just about thought we were getting married. I was like, wait, is this like Romeo and Juliet? Are we leaving together? This is amazing. Move over on your little, what are those little bikes? It was a, God, my memory is terrible. It's not called a 10-speed. What's the other ones that you ride in the dirt? Dirt bike? No, that's a motorcycle. It was a bike of sorts. Anyway, it didn't have a long enough seat for both of us. I would have had to go on the handlebars, which would have been even more romantic. So I almost got married in the 7th grade, apparently. Anyway, men and women handle things differently, love differently, and show their emotions differently. I learned that very young. Thank you, Philip, for not letting her know how brokenhearted you were. Obviously, not all men are the same. I think a lot of women miss the way men communicate because they're looking for a different language. The men are from Mars, women are from Venus thing is true. We do hear and see things differently, but I just don't think it's as complicated as we're making it. Sometimes love sounds like words, and sometimes it sounds like text me when you get home. Let me know you're okay. Good morning. And of course, not every male qualifies as a man, which brings us to a very important distinction. What separates men from boys? This conversation has to happen because being a male and being a man are not necessarily the same thing. A boy, or an underdeveloped man, avoids accountability. A man takes responsibility. A boy wants all the benefits of a relationship without the effort. And a man understands that commitment requires consistency. A boy blames everyone else. A man self-reflects. A boy disappears when things get hard, but a man stays and works through the discomfort. And before anyone starts cheering, women have their versions of this too. Maturity isn't gender specific, but we've all met grown adults operating with middle school emotional skills. I decided very young, after my first two boyfriends that were nightmares, just didn't end well, I decided I was going to date nothing but older men. And older back then was 3 years, which is a big difference between 15 and 18, especially to my brothers. Younger men is out of the question because they're going to be emotionally stunted. And so I started dating older guys. And my first long-term boyfriend was 10 years older than me. Is he 10 years or 9 years? But it was a big chunk. Like I was in my early 20s and he was already in his 30s. And I thought, well, this is going to be fantastic. He had all the bells and whistles, lived alone, had his own job, had a motorcycle, handsome guy, lived in the city. And I thought, well, this obviously he knows more than I do about the world and about love and emotions. Not true. I thought that if I dated older, that would make a big difference. And consistently, after my first relationship ended, here's the thing. After my first relationship ended, I continued to date older men. I think just by chance. It really isn't. Older men seemed to be attracted to me and younger men were not. And I definitely am not attracted to younger men. But I do say that doesn't really change the emotional level of a man. I have a 30-year-old nephew who's light years more evolved emotionally than the men I date. And I can say that as his, as aunt, and he probably looks better because he's inside broken glass for me. It's like his wife might say different, but it's funny that age doesn't change emotional maturity. It doesn't change emotional availability. It doesn't change how someone argues, how someone communicates. And I thought in the beginning, if I was to look to an older male, I would get a more mature adult relationship. I was, in fact, incorrect. It could just be the men I've chosen and good men. I had one really terrible relationship. I joke about the rest. I've dated great men. I'm friends with almost everybody I've ever had a relationship with, and I have a lot of male friends. I'm a big fan of the men. Love them. Think they're great. Think that we're a lot of work and they're misunderstood. And I know there's a lot of people who want to yell at me for this, but I've had this conversation ad nauseum for years. I'm a big male advocate. But I do think the age doesn't change that. Clearly at 54, if I dated someone in their 20s, which I would not do, but I do think that there would be a big emotional difference. I think I would find a problem with that. I just think there's a lot of emotional differences between the sexes, and I think we may sometimes, I'm having an aha moment right here, I think we may sometimes associate the way a man communicates as someone who's emotionally or uninvested or unavailable or immature. Where what's more immature? The full-out freak out? The absolute breakdown when something happens, and I can only speak for myself. I'm kidding. I don't have an emotional freak out every time. But that, or the stoic male who just is like, yeah, I'm not doing it right now. I think maybe men just don't have as much room for the mishigash. Like they just can't have all the stuff. We love all the stuff. I want my conversations with sparkles. And right now, if I could pop balloons and have them floating through the air, I'd be so happy right now telling the story. I want confetti. I want all the stuff when I tell it. And a man's just like, facts. Lunch, sex, sleep, work, her. I just made them her. All of a sudden I dated a Neanderthal. It's not true. I'm simplifying. But I do think that we're more complicated. I think that we have these expectations where we want our men, male friends, brothers, relationships. I think we tend to want them to have more female reactions to us. We want them to be chicks. Stop it, ladies. I think that that's all our fault. I think that we want the emotional conversations, but in the same time, when you meet a man, speak for myself here, when I've met a man who's emotionally sharing, open, it's kind of like, oh, what are you doing? What's going on right now? Why is that not sexy? Right. And then somehow you get in a relationship and you think that they're supposed to share everything and that it's going to stay sexy, but it wasn't sexy when you met them. Because if they overshare, then you tell your friends, like, this guy was telling me everything. They can't win. That's it. This show is called KelleyLovesMen.com. We get them as is, flannels, t-shirts, probably no hair product, probably a bad watch, dress poorly. I just saw like 10 of my ex-boyfriends in my head as I'm saying this. And then we like that. We fall in like. We fall in like with this. Brooding, texts every now and then, not available, doesn't call too much, isn't chasing us, and then we get him. We get the title. We get the girlfriend title. It's like everything. It's like weird science. Everything just goes, well, now I'm going to get him to talk to me about his feelings. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Then we show up with the makeup and the hair and oh, no, you're fine. No, you didn't call. Oh, don't worry about it. We're cool. Then you get the title. Then you're the girlfriend. And then it's a big flip out when they don't call. Then it's not okay for them to go out with their friends. What do you mean you're doing that on Friday night? What game where? We're crazy. I'm taking responsibility for all of us. I apologize to the general public, the male public. Hear ye, all men. Court of Kelley Faye. You guys, it's our fault, all of it. Maybe I'll get a date now. Maybe now that I'm kissing the butts of all the men out there. No, I think that most of the time we the ones that change. I think we stop doing all the sweet things we used to do. We stop accepting them for who they are and want them to be who they aren't, and we want them to be our girlfriends. Like, no, if you want to talk about how bad your day was, call your best female friend. Even your guy friend doesn't want to hear that. They're sick of us. We need to talk to each other. Yeah, vent to your girlfriends. Don't vent to the men. They're tired of us. Oh my God, I sound so terrible. Like all of the feminist people who love me are going to hate me right now. And I love women too. I think we're fantastic and we're way more evolved. But anyway, whole different show. This show is about how much we love men and how we're going to understand them. And we have to understand them by not thinking they're us. No guy cares what color lipstick I have on, as long as it doesn't stay on his face when I kiss him. It's the only thing they care about. They don't care about the color. Just is it on me now? Oh, look, I got this beautiful. No, it's going to be all over his face. He doesn't want lipstick. You have to get the lip stuff that stays on like I have, even though I don't kiss anybody except for Oliver. So if we lower expectations, and I don't mean lower expectations because they can't meet our expectations because they're doing what they should be doing if they're doing what they should be doing. Don't lower your expectations like you lower your standards. Two different things. Just don't expect a man to be a chick. That's it. And they can't expect us to be dudes. Which I don't think they do. I think we put the pressure on them. This is a whole conversation I've had for years with my girlfriends, and no one ever agrees with me. Men do. There's a bunch of men going, that's right, Kelley. Call me. I think that we change our expectations once we get comfortable, because then we get them. You know what I always wanted to change about him? That one little thing. Yes, that one little thing becomes 10 little things. And they don't handle it as well as we do. And by the way, could you imagine if a man ever said to you, you know, I never said this before, but I really hate when you anything. We do that. Or I know I have done it. I know my girlfriends have done it. You surprise them with the like, hey, I really don't like A, B, and C. I mean, well, you were doing it the whole time you were dating to get to where you got. Then you get there and you flip it up on them. I'm sorry, guys. It's all our fault. And I don't know how come I don't have 35 men outside my door right now. I am not that way when I'm in a relationship. I'm on the podcast. And this is Kelley. This is the podcast version of Kelley. I have ex-boyfriends going, she's so full of shit. Yeah, I know. I like this version better though. I've grown since our relationship, fellas. I'm a new woman now. And I think that we're wrong and you're right. Maybe I do have 30 guys waiting outside my door. Come on in. Everyone, come on in. I am open for business now because I believe that we did everything wrong and I'm here to fix the mistakes of the women before me. Oh my God, my girlfriend's going to kill me for this episode. I truly believe women are amazing, and I'm having fun with this, and we are completely different creatures. That's the truth. We're emotionally different. We need different things, and I think when we stop expecting men to respond the way we respond, we will feel a lot better about ourselves, and we'll feel a lot better about our relationships with every man in our lives, from the male boss who you can't really understand what he's saying, to the brothers, to the boyfriends. If you're lucky to have a father or father figure who is a positive role model in your life, I think that's the man who you get the most honesty from, I found in my life anyway, because they don't have anything. Your brothers are going to compete with you all the time. Your dad, your father figure, whoever that is for you, I think they really, if they're good men, want what's best for you. So you can get a lot of good information from that male role model, I think. Brothers are sometimes jerks. Sorry, you know who you are. And there's a little bit more competition. There's like nudging. It's like they don't really give you your real, like what a guy would give you, like a dude that you were dating. I think they want to kind of never get you too soft. I think at least my brothers wanted to keep me a little bit on my toes with men. So they would never be like too soft with me. I don't know. I don't have the words for it, but I hope that makes sense. But I think that women and men need and want and communicate differently. And I think as soon as we understand that when a man says yes, no, maybe, and we think it's a short answer, we being me, and get upset about it, sometimes it really is as simple as that. You don't need to elaborate. Why do we need more? Do you want to go to dinner? Yes. Da-da-da. Like, yes, but what would be my response? I'd be like, what do you mean yes, but yes, no heart, yes, no XO? Like sometimes I think it's just, I think they're simpler, they're easier than us. I think we're complicated. Women change up the game. I'm not like any one of my girlfriends. Like we're all so completely different. But I think a lot of guys are they want the same things. And the older I get, not that I'm old, I realize that the men in our lives teach us completely different things. I think every category of man teaches us something. Fathers or father figures can teach us about protection and what consistency looks like. Brothers can teach us how to stand up for ourselves and how to survive relentless teasing. Guy friends can teach us perspective. Sometimes they can tell us the things that our girlfriends won't. Partners teach us intimacy, vulnerability, and compromise. And sometimes even the disappointing men teach us valuable lessons. The guy who broke your heart, or the boss that underestimated you, or the friend who let you down. Not because their behavior was okay, but because they showed you what you'll never tolerate again. So I can't really have a podcast or conversation about men without bringing up the most important man in my entire life and one of the greatest men to ever live, my father. My dad was so specific in the way in which he loved, in the way in which he fathered, how he nurtured, how he protected, how he stood for his family. It was, they say they broke the mold. You've heard people would say a man's man, and they broke the mold. I don't know what a man's man means because I really don't know what that means. But he definitely was one of a kind, and he loved so fully his children the way in which my mother loved us. There was no difference in the way they behaved emotionally with their children, and physically, the affection, the love, the communication, the constantly supportive and saying how happy they were and how proud they were. My father spoke those words constantly. He showed me in a million different ways how proud he was of me and how much he loved me in a way that I think a lot of men don't, or I've heard that men don't. I think I was really, really blessed to have the man that I had. And the thing that I got to see, as I was saying earlier about my brothers having emotions, is I got to see the same with my father. Outside, my father was feared. My father owned a bar. He was a tough guy. There were times he came to my defense and physically, put people in their place who were bothering me, and you didn't want to mess around with Mr. Fahey. He was someone to be feared. In my neighborhood, they used to call him Citizen on Patrol. And if we were out drinking, we used to drink, they were called nips. We would drink beers on the park. And if my father came walking through, people would drop their beers and run. It's like, that's my father. What are you running from? It's like, he had the presence of like, I don't know. Everyone was just a little bit nervous about him, and he wasn't that guy, but I understood it on the outside. He could be that guy. I think that's what's so magical about men is there's this two different sides to them. My dad could be this tough guy on the street, and, walk in and just say a couple words and make someone nervous or put some fear in them, not to mess with his daughter. But at the same time, he would sit and cry over something emotional, or wow, how he loved my mother, and respected women, didn't curse. He wouldn't curse at my mother, would never curse. Like, he cursed in general, we weren't a big non-cursing family, but he never cursed at a woman. He had a lot of respect for women. And I saw it, it's just in all the little things, a million little things. Getting to the age where you start dating and you have this greater, larger than life father who, again, was such a tough guy, and also so handsome and so well kept and always on point with the goatee well trimmed. He just always looked he was always so put together. The thing I learned from my dad, my first love, is that men have many, many sides. And I think that I took that into meeting men, and I had way more understanding and compassion because of the men I grew up with for the men I was to meet moving forward as an adult in my dating life. The only thing is none of them could compare. You can't compare. I don't think we should compare our partners with our parents. But I do think the way in which a man treats a woman, if you have a standard, and that standard comes from the way your father treated your mother, I think that's fantastic. If you have the luck that I had, where it was a wonderful thing to admire and hope that one day I get. It's never happened. Lessons learned from every man in my life. There's so many lessons from everybody. My father being the most important, the earliest one, the most impactful, because it was the first love of my life, was my father. And then, of course, my brothers left indelible imprints which teaching me to be a little bit stronger, to stand up for myself, taught me how to fight, not take any, don't let anybody talk about your sister, protecting my family. Don't let anybody say anything about your sister. Don't let anybody talk about your brothers. We came from a place where it was like you stood up for each other. And I think the boys in my life taught me that. My brothers taught me that. My first earliest friends, my male friends, made me a little bit harder. I think that there's something to be said about girls with brothers. I think you can point out a girl with a brother out of a girl differently than a girl without a brother, and not that one is better than the other, but women with brothers tend to find themselves friends with other women with brothers. Look around, ask yourself, ask your girlfriends. Almost every one of my friends have brothers. I probably think literally all of them. And it's just a different type of girl. You just have a little bit more of an edge, I think. My opinion is. So I think that the earliest boyfriends, like I would go out when I was a kid with young boys. Well, I had a lot of guy friends when I was growing up, and we would just go in the fields, and like I remember not thinking worms were gross or stupid stuff like girls thought were gross. I didn't think it was gross. I used to chop up worms. That is kind of gross when I look back at it now. But when I was a kid, I didn't ski worms. I could go fishing and I could put the hook right through the fish's eye, which I wouldn't want to do now. But things that other normal, like girls without brothers and without boyfriends, male friends, didn't do, I did. And then somewhere along the line, I became a prissy, and I don't do any of that now. I don't know what happened. My first manicure, and that was it. No more dead animals in my hands. So to name a couple things that I've learned from the earlier relationships in my life, I'll go through a couple of relationships. My first boyfriend taught me that you have to stick to your guns when it comes to a relationship. I made a demand of him. He did not follow through, and I walked away from the relationship. And I was sure I was right when I did it. Clearly I was. But he taught me, when you make a choice in a relationship, you need to follow through on it. So I did that with him. Then I had a boyfriend who taught me, you got to learn to have a little bit more fun. I was always afraid of everything. I was scared to death of everything. Nervous Nelly. He was risky. He took risks. He did crazy stuff. He broke down my fear of enjoying just a silly joyride when I shouldn't be out at night, or something like little silly things. But I was so by the book. I was so afraid to do anything wrong. And he was like, let's stay out an hour past your curfew, or we would sit on the roof of my house. Silly stuff, silly little things. But he taught me to relax a little bit, that you can have a little bit of fun and it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And then I guess a really important lesson I learned from a relationship is that you really can't put your opinions of yourself onto how another person treats you. I had a partner for years. We were engaged at one point, and he always, and we talk about it now. We're still friends. He really kind of wanted to keep me in my place because he thought that would stop the relationship from going poorly. We dated. I was in my early 20s. That's the one I was talking about that was 10 years older than me. And so I think that as I was getting more mature and kind of learning about the world and getting a little bit more, sassy, finding my style and being, a 20-year-old, I think he got a little bit worried that I might outgrow him. And so he would verbally put me down. And I saw myself through his treatment of me. And at some point, I don't know how it happened, I had some big aha moment when I was like, oh no, I'm not happy here. This isn't good. And I recognized that all the things he was saying to me subconsciously, just like, are you going to wear that? I'd be like, oh no, okay, no, I'm not going to, like making me buy new clothes to go home to see his family. Like there was nothing wrong with my clothes, but he made me so self-conscious, but it was little bits of chipping away at my self-esteem. Anyway, we've since worked it out, lots of therapy later, and we're friends now. But yeah, I learned you are not what other people think of you from another relationship. And all of that put together made me the wonderful woman I am today. So thank you guys for all the heartache. I appreciate that. Now I'm still on your side. How'd you play the game that way? One more thing about relationships and what I've learned. I did have a really terrible relationship that I don't talk about a lot because he's still alive and breathing somewhere. But one thing, another important lesson I've learned in a bad relationship, the other ones were not bad. Trust when you see the worst side of somebody, that's part of them. When you see someone's anger, rage, deceit, lies, whatever it is that you see and you think, well, that's something, your deal breaker. If you spot your deal breaker and they apologize away on it, recognize it's going to come back. I've learned that from a relationship. Trust when they show you who they are. Because growth doesn't always come from the best people. Sometimes it comes from recovering from the worst ones. Because the funniest thing about men is despite all of our differences, they're often much more simple than we think. I think women give men way too much credit. I say after I've just sang their praises this entire time. But I think we do. I think we give them too much credit. Not in intelligence, but in complexity. Sometimes a man is upset because he's deeply struggling emotionally. And sometimes a man is upset because he's hungry. Sometimes he's sending mixed signals, and sometimes he genuinely has no signal. Women will analyze a text for 3 hours, 6 hours, 5 hours, reread it, rewrite it. What does that emoji mean? How come there's no emoji? What did that sentence say? How come we didn't say... over and over and over. I know I will read, and figure out what his thought process was when he said yes. What does he mean? But what does he mean? He means yes, Kelley, you psychopath. A man will send a sounds good text and immediately forget the conversation even happened. When it comes to text messages between men and women, for myself, I can only speak of me. I have spent hours upon hours reading and rereading and editing and wishing I would have said. I've sent text messages. Thank you, God, for chat, for WhatsApp. So thank you, God, for WhatsApp, where you can send a message and within 24 hours you can delete the message. Lord knows I have deleted away. I will run a conversation through ChatGPT before I send it with all the criteria of how I'm sending it. I will be like, just remember, it's him. He's mad. He's a narcissist. He's angry at me. He's not talking to me anymore. And then he said this yesterday, and I will do the whole story. And chat will be like, we know, Kelley. We already know him and we know you. Here's what you should say. I will write text and it will tell me not to send the text. I'm telling you, computers are getting smart. They're arguing back. I will run my text through ChatGPT and send it to myself, send it to my friends, ask my friends, especially my guy friends, to edit. Because I think what we tend to lose, what I tend to lose in the chat relationship, especially with a relationship, a romantic relationship text, and even with guy friends, I think I lose the nuance of simplicity. Imagine that. When someone says something and they are very short and direct, trust that that's what it means. Not to me. I have to make it mean 20,000 other different things than what it actually says. I don't know what that's about. As much as I love men, I'm so confused by them. So my guide to men is going to help me get there. I'm learning today o'clock how to navigate men. No, I think I tend to over examine what a man means. When if I could just get out of my own head and get out of my own way, remember the basics is what they say, what they want. They say what they feel, believe them, believe that it's that simple, and stop making everything so complicated. The truth is that men are not impossible to understand. They just communicate different than women. Definitely different than me. And as soon as we stop expecting everyone to communicate just like we do, the easier the relationships become. Not because men are simple, but because assumptions make people complicated. So what have we ultimately learned about men? I don't know. Here's what I've learned. Men are imperfect, women are imperfect. No one is perfect. Everyone has imperfections. Some men will disappoint you. Some will inspire you. Others will protect you. Some, most, often, will challenge you. And maybe one will completely change your life. Or two, or three, or four. Someone's going to completely change your life. It doesn't have to be just one of them. They all change your life. But maybe one will completely change your life. And the older I get, not that I'm old, I really do appreciate the good men. The fathers or father figures who show up, the brothers that have your back, the friends who support you, and the partners who choose you every day. Because good men do not have to be perfect. They just have to be present. So if you have a great man in your life, maybe send them this episode. Or send them my way. If you have a great man in your life, I have been sticking up for men this entire time. You better send it to them. Kelley's still single. At the very least, send them a text. And don't get mad if they respond with just a thumbs up emoji. Don't forget to subscribe, rate Still Can't Cook 5 stars, and send this episode to someone who spent years trying to decode the male brain. I'm still trying. Thank you for being here, and we will see you next week for a brand new episode of Still Can't Cook. Bye. Hey guys, thank you so much for showing up for another episode of Still Can't Cook. Subscribe to us wherever you listen to your podcasts, on YouTube or any other podcast provider. And if you're on Instagram or TikTok, please follow us at Still Can't Cook. Love to have you guys back every week. So happy that you joined us and look forward to seeing you next week.